right, friends. You think we've got anybody else trickling in, or should we get going? I know. If y'all need to, I know this is ridiculous, but as an adult that sits and things like this, if y'all need to get up and go to the bathroom or get coffee, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I will not take it personally. I may or may not call you out for it, but it I will not take it personally. So we're grown-ups. Do what you need to do. But thank you so much for choosing to spend the next little bit with me. Thank you guys for being here. Yes, girl. So I'm Naomi, and I just started the Maven Consulting, and I'm doing a lot of work with different companies, just talking about culture and background and understanding each other. And I think part of that, as you all know, is that we have a lot of trauma-focused parenting, trauma-focused teaching. We're very aware of these things. And then our kiddos turn 18 and they get thrown out into the workplace, and our businesses don't understand any of that. And so then all of a sudden they're wondering, why do we have employees that are not the same as our other employees, or why are they having reactions that are a little out of pocket? So I'm working on creating things. I would love feedback if any of y'all have thoughts about this. I'm working on continuing to create training opportunities for our businesses to understand our younger employees, especially, and those that have come through the system. So a little bit of background about me. I've been a foster parent for 11 years. So you're going to hear me talk about my kids a lot today. All of the kids I'm going to tell you stories about are over 18. They all know that I do this. They, we still have great relationships. So, none of them are going to be mad at me. They don't always love it when I'm like, I told stories on you today, but it's fine. They're all fine with it. So I live in Oak Ridge, been a foster family for a long time. And I was the director for court-appointed special advocates, serving Anderson, Campbell, Scott, and Morgan as my first real job. And then I went to the United Way a few years after that. So about 10 years ago, and then just start transition. So I'm excited to talk to y'all today and be with you guys. So this is kind of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explore the 5 protective factors, which I know I'm not going to get into deeply because I know that you all are well aware of that. And so understanding how the 5 factors build resilience and well-being, learn how to understand socioeconomic culture and trauma-focused approach, and then practice some strategies to mitigate burnout. So the main thing that I really want to talk about and focus on today is going to be that last piece of mitigating burnout. That I'm completing my PhD right now and very focused on burnout in general and how these 5 factors can help with mitigating burnout. Okay, so parental resilience to overcome adversity and model emotional regulation. And this is linked to a lot to much better mental health. And so when we talk about emotional regulation, I think it's really important that we're constantly talking about how to work with kids and adults who are in that active spin out and being able to help bring them back. And so one of my favorite examples of this is one of my foster kids, who was one of my very first. And he was on a lot of meds, which is another story, but he was on a lot of meds. A lot of those did not interact well with sugar and caffeine. And so we were constantly trying to keep those things away from him. I would make this low sugar banana bread. It was like his favorite thing. And he would get it for breakfast, and I would make it and get it ready for the week. And he was really excited. And if he had good behaviors, this was like his treat breakfast, right? And so there was one night I'd been working all day, come home, I'm baking the banana bread, I'm watching TV, and I hear him in the kitchen. I'm like, Greg, I know you're not getting in that banana bread right now. And it's silent in there. And I got up, and sure enough, he was like, had the whole thing and was like taking a bite of it. And I'm like, you better. And I just felt like this unbelievable rage. It was an irrational amount of anger because I was really tired. It was the end of the day. I'm like, come on, man, really? And he took that banana bread and he shoved it down his shorts. And I was like, what in the world? And he goes, come get it from me then. Fully knowing I can't go in shorts to get this banana bread from him. And I stood there and I really was like a half of a second away from absolutely losing it. And then I just started laughing because I was like, well, now nobody gets to eat it. Like nobody wants to eat it out of your shorts. I was like, I go, okay, friend, if you want to eat that banana bread that's been down your shorts after you've been playing basketball and you didn't even shower yet today, be my guest. And I just started laughing. He started laughing. It de-escalated really quickly. And we were able to have a conversation later, like, hey man, I was really mad because let me explain to you from my side. I get you want sweet treats. We all want sweet treats at the end of the day. However, I'm really trying to help you. I'm not just being mean when I say you can't have sugar at night. And so being able to have this conversation later, I think this is a really good example of something really, really small. When we think about parental resilience, we think it has to be something significant, right? Those little moments where we can help understand that situation a little bit better and even laugh. So I'm a foster parent mentor and foster parent trainer. And this is one of the things I talk to my families about all the time is like just finding those opportunities to be able to laugh. So that's going to help. And finding opportunities to remain calm and model that calm and regulation and co-regulation is really, really important. And so teaching that skill to other people, I think really helps a lot, that even in the workplace, there are opportunities to teach not flying off the handle, right? Like this is a place where I very much could have been angry, but was able to keep it together. That's modeling that regulation and helping other people co-regulate. Social connections. So emotional support, less isolation, stronger outcomes due to ongoing support. So this is really important because we can all feel very much alone. And it's one of those things where we can, again, model. I have a 22-year-old. She was y'all will get this. Most rooms don't understand this. I always call her my foster fail because she never moved out. And like when people get puppies, they're like foster puppies, and they're foster fail because I kept it. She's my foster fail. I kept her. So she's 22, and I keep trying to baby bird, go on your way. And she is very happy, just living her best life, playing video games all night. So living her best life. But one of the things that she said to me recently, she came and was talking to me about the way that she was being treated by some of her best friends. And she said, I want your type of friends. And so those social connections, I think we undervalue the importance of modeling what healthy relationships look like, especially for women. It's hard to find women that are supportive. It's hard to find women that lift each other up, and we need it so desperately. And I think so many of us have just kind of got used to we're treated the way we're treated. And that's not the reality. When we can use boundaries and set expectations for healthy and good relationships, we don't have to just take what's given, right? And I think this younger generation, like I said, she plays video games and she doesn't make a lot of in real life connections. And that's something that we're really missing. So looking for opportunities to create social connections, not only for ourselves, but for kids that we're working with, providing those opportunities, because that's a really incredible network and support for them. So knowledge of parenting and child development, feeling of competence, more effective discipline, routines, and stability. This is like where I lean every day. I am not a structured person by any way, form, or fashion. I'm always 5 minutes late because that's who I am as a person. It's never an excuse. Everything is exactly how I anticipated it being, but I'm just always going to be late because I feel very disorganized in my brain. And so being able to have things more structured with our house rules and chore charts, that has been really helpful for our family, especially just because our kids know what to expect. they feel more confidence in us. And what's funny is I teach this in all of my business classes as well, that when you have these structures in place, you are able to present more competently because you feel prepared and then you feel competent. It's the same in any of that. So for teaching parents and those working with kiddos, having that structure helps those kids have confidence that they know what's coming. And so understanding all of those pieces as well. Concrete support in times of need. So alleviating pressures. Security decreases risk of crisis and ability to focus on development. So I will screw it up, but there's a quote that says that those who need development the most are the least prepared to do it. And so when you are a family in crisis, it's very hard to kind of step out of that and be able to really look and evaluate and make these big life changes, right? So as middle class, I always joke around, like Brené Brown, who I absolutely love, like her key demographic is middle class white women. Like that, we love her, right? We don't need her as much, like, because we already pretty much like have some things together. We understand vulnerability. We understand these concepts, but we're the ones that have access to that because we're not in crisis. And so when we start thinking about our families and the crisis that they are in, and we start thinking about some of those pieces, it's really important that we remember that we can teach all day, but if a family's in crisis, they don't have the capacity to be able to make some of those changes and do some of those things. And then social and emotional competence. So self-regulation, fewer conflicts lead to better long-term outcomes. We all know this. So again, teaching that self-regulation, helping our kiddos build that base of emotional competence. It's really funny, actually. So my oldest daughter she's very fiery like me. She's in her 20s and she has 3 kids now, and she'll call me. And she's just will absolutely lose her cool. So she's much more like me, and she'll call and she's like, I think I'm just gonna, and just like off the rails. Like I'm gonna go burn their house down. Like not actually, but like that kind of extreme level. My first response is, yes, girl, as you should. This is ridiculous. You should burn it down. And I'm always like, nope, that's not good emotional competence. And so I think it's something about, there's something to be said for, I understand how you feel and I am validating this level. However, this is where we need to be for our own ability to function moving forward, right? So I know I've worked with a lot of like DCS workers and other social workers, caseworkers that also feel that way. Like, let's just burn it to the ground. Like, right. We get into a corner where it's like, well, there's no way I can help. Like I'm stuck and there's no way to improve this in any way, form, or fashion. And it's really frustrating, but understanding that there are people that fully agree with that and understand that can give a little bit of peace that we're in this together, right? All right. So parental resilience and overcoming adversity. Alexis, who I just talked about, she's my 20-something. She had been in foster homes since she was 2 weeks old. She was adopted, and then she was surrendered, and then at 12, and then she was in residential facilities from 12 until 17 when she came to me. She stayed with me until she turned 18. She snuck out of a window the night of her 18th birthday, disappeared. She was arrested a few months after that. And so she had filed complaints about our home. We were under investigation, like all of the things, right? So it was just very much, I'm going to burn it to the ground. And she went to jail. I had found out because I'm a freak that puts all my kids into my Google search. So like it sends me alerts if any of them get arrested. So I knew, and I was just kind of waiting. I hadn't talked to her for 4 months. And finally I get this letter from her. And so we start talking again. Everybody's abandoned her at this point. As you know, there's really not much that you can do to support a kid if they are making these kinds of choices. And so I was able to get in contact with her, help her finish her high school diploma from jail, and really kind of make that reach. The funniest part of it actually is I got thrown out of the courtroom because I hadn't seen her for so long. First time I got to see her was in a court hearing, and I looked at her and they were like, "You're not allowed to look at the inmates." And I was like, "Okay." And I kind of looked over at her again, and she was like mouthing, "Your hair looks good," because I had cut, my hair was different. She was like, I was like, "Thanks, girl." And they were like, "Ma'am, we're gonna have to ask you to leave." They fully escorted me because you can't have any kind of communication with an inmate. I didn't really know that. It was my first time. And so anyway, like I said, she had her first kid at 22, which still feels really young, but to consider her mom had her at 17. And before that, it was 16, 17, 18. She made it to 22. And she has custody of both of her kids. Like, that's huge, right? So just that ability to stay in connection with her. And I could have very easily ignored that letter that came in the mail. Like, girl, my house was under investigation. I had people coming and talking to me like I was abusive towards you. You snuck out of my house. I'll tell you one really quick story about her because it's hilarious. So I came down, it was Mother's Day, and I came down from the bedroom and I'm like, that's weird. Why is the living room window open? Like, we have a bay window and one of the windows is open. I'm like, that's weird. I mean, maybe my husband did it because it was warm last night, like very weird. And then I look out because the bushes are kind of moving. I look out and I'm like, and she's not little, she's my height. And I go, what? I'm not proud of it, but I did swear. I was like, what the are you doing? And she goes, like, I'm not going to see her anymore. I mean, like, just, and then she goes, why are you up so early? And I was like, get in the house right now. So she takes like the longest walk for 5 feet to come inside. And I think she's been like trying to come up with something. And I'm like, where have you been? And she's just like, went for a walk. I'm like, really? At 6 a.m., you went for a walk fully dressed. Sure looks like you have not been home. Well, it was a guy and it was a whole thing. And it had been going on. And there's so many stories that I got to talk to his mom too. And she was like, no, my son would never do that. I'm like, please go check under his bed right this minute. And then she cuts back on the phone and she's like, she'll be home in a minute. I'm like, yeah, because I know, I already know. Anyway, this girl, we had a raccoon in our house because she kept sneaking out. We had alarms on the windows. She figured out how to disarm them. This is why when she was in jail, I was like, no, we're going to get her graduated. This girl is not stupid. She is smart. Like, the level of mischief that she could do. I was like, you are too smart for this. Anyway, I'm slightly off topic. Okay. So when we start talking about resilience, she has it, right? So she built many, she's gone through all of these people that have invested in her. She kind of ran through them. But when you look at her history, to be in the system since 2 weeks old, to be with family, like relative placement, adopted, and then surrendered at 12, and then no other family wanted her, essentially. Like, she was bounced from one residential to another. She was not in a home from 12 until 17 and a half or 17 and a quarter. And so to think that she has come through all of that, yeah, she's burned a lot of bridges, but look at where she is now. So that resilience is really, really important. And she does still have a relationship with her biological parents, which I'm not so happy about her dad, but her mom, who she never really spent time with, her mom is in a much better place now too. And so her mom getting to be in that kind of conversation with her and relationship with her, and me getting to be a part of that as well has been really cool. So we as foster parents were the ones that helped her get her high school diploma while she was in jail. We were the ones that helped her get her record expunged. We provide babysitting and respite for her now. And so those social connections and building those networks of support has been really important for her, because I don't know that she would really consider us her parents, even though we've been through that. That's just about building her social connections and her social network. And then we are able to help her build those other bridges and get a good job and those kinds of things as well. So she went through parenting classes. That was one of the deals. Like, I will help you, but you are going to be in parenting classes. So she went through parenting classes that helped her understand the developmental stages and how to maintain custody. She did have some challenges. She did have a removal for a short term, but she's really relied on a lot of the resources in the system to help her. And then concrete support. We helped her with her apartment. So that was it. Like, we'll help you with the down payment, but only if you're going to go to these parenting classes, only if you're doing what you need to be doing. She had obviously burned enough bridges that she didn't qualify for support anymore from a lot of different places, but she used those social networks and she was able to pull things together. We did help her get her record expunged, so she's still got really great opportunities and some state support programs. And then when it comes to emotional competence, children are good at self-regulating, or when she's teaching her kids more self-regulating, which keeps a far more peaceful home. And so that's part of it. I love that she'll call me because she knows I understand that. Again, I would love to burn it all down, but let's talk through it a little bit. Let's calm down. We don't want your kids seeing that, right? So being able to say, okay, how have you seen this modeled and how do you want to parent has been a really important piece for her. And so one of the other things that we teach in our house is connecting consequences. And so my kids hate it. I do this to them all the time. I'm like, if you choose to continue this behavior, you are choosing whatever the consequence is. So my favorite story with that, man, we're going to be here all day because I've got so many of these stories. So my favorite is my 22-year-old, and she's sassy. And I said, if you choose to continue this behavior, you're choosing to lose your phone for the rest of the night because I'm not doing this anymore. And this is what she did. You dress like you think you're younger than you are. Your nail polish is stupid. You're not nearly as funny as you think you are. I don't even like you. And you know what? Nobody else does either. They're just lying to you so your feelings don't get hurt. And then she walked out of the room, and my husband, like in a shot, was in there, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, but I think she understands consequences now." Like, are you kidding me? That's so mean. Like, it stayed with me for so long. And like, this was like, I don't know, 7 years ago. And sometimes I'm still like, you do think I'm funny though, right? And she's like, oh my gosh, I was mad. I'm like, I know, but are you laughing because you think it'll hurt my feelings? And she's like, no, let it go. Like, she wrecked me with that. All right. So out of all of these, I want to hear from y'all. What do you think is the most challenging to implement? Like, either what's the hardest to teach, or what do you think parents have the hardest time with? What are your experiences from being in the field? Yes.
I think when you're working with families that were raised one way, trying to impart that knowledge of parenting, because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what they don't know.
Yeah.
So to say there's a different way, and they may know the way they were raised is not the right way, but they don't know what a different way is. So that having that conversation, I mean, I don't work with families anymore because I'm not emotionally equipped, and I know that's my resiliency. But that's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah. Especially if we do know.
And you can't walk in and say,
Yeah.
It's gonna shut it down.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me give you the 10 ways to be better.
Yeah, it's knowledge of parenting, but helping them to understand that it's not just the hearing.
Yep.
That, teenage brains, 4 hours, but I mean that, yes, you're having a hard time with your child now, maybe they're having tantrums, crying, whatever, not sleeping or whatever. But it gets better.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, does it get better? Because then they turn into teenagers. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Yeah.
It's different for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I also think when we just had the last session I came from, we were talking about the executive functioning and, that, brains are not fully developed to 25 to 29.
Yep.
And, you've got 18 to 25, whatever kids, they're still kids, their brains aren't developed, but they're having kids. And so they're not, so you've got an imbalance just to begin with.
Yep. 100%. Anybody else?
I think sometimes people, especially in the foster care world, they go one way or the other, but on concrete support, like I've seen it happen time and again, where people come in to work with foster children as foster parents, and they think, well, they never had this, they never had that, so I'm just going to give them the best shoes and matching clothes, and they're just going to love me, and it's all going to be wonderful. And that definitely always backfires. So I think there's it's hard with the concrete support because you got to find that balance of what's giving them the support that they really need, and what are we giving them the nurturing or the emotional competence to go out in the world.
Yeah. And then those kids that I always joke around and say flunk out of extension, but like you flunk out of extension, yes, you can re-enter, but it's really, really hard. And like for Alexis, she didn't qualify to come back into extension. And so then when we start talking about what concrete support is there's not a lot. There's not a lot. Yeah.
I was gonna say, honestly, having a hard time sitting here picking one, but then the families that we work with, their children have mental health diagnosis, behavioral issues, and these parents feel so alone.
Yeah.
Like no one is listening to them. No one can offer concrete ideas of how to help.
Yep.
They feel like they're the only parents in the world whose child behaves that way at school. I can tell them that is not true.
Yep.
That is not true. And it's like, even if they have family or friends, sometimes due to the child's behavior, everyone's backed away.
Yeah.
And they don't really offer support or help or respite to the parents anymore.
Yep.
And they feel so isolated and like there's no one they can talk to.
100%. 100%. I think more and more as communities, individuals are feeling that way. Like that's just across the board. Like our kids are feeling that way. A lot of parents are feeling that way. And when you look at things like TikTok and Pinterest and all of that, it looks like, well, everybody else has their act together and everybody else's life is great. And I'm the only one that's struggling. And that could be really hard. So breaking down those barriers to help people understand. Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay, so I'm going to talk briefly about the impact of socioeconomics. So I have a lot of background in Bridges Out of Poverty and Emotional Poverty and some of those different classes. But the main piece here is understanding economic class differences and how this affects the day-to-day. And so there's a lot of hidden rules that exist within the middle class. And all of our programs are pretty much based on a middle class perspective and understanding. I will say, I know that everybody's working really hard to shift that. But again, we don't know what we don't know, right? So unless we are very aware of what is a middle class construct and a middle class culture difference, we don't know that, right? So if we've learned to work with the government and through different programs and systems, we don't know that other people don't know. And so I'm going to tell another Alexa story because she's the most hilarious of all my children. So she, like I said, she moved in at 17 and a half. She's my height. She looks like an adult. Like she looks grown. And she's not allowed to be on her own because she's high risk. And so I had a really important meeting and I was like, there's just no way I can bring her with me. And so I told my husband, I was like, you're going to have her. You're going to have to take her. And he gets a cubicle set up at work. And at this point he was working at just a regular company, right? So you have the first floor with the least important people, then the middle floor, like middle manager, and then all the important people at the very top of the building, 3-story building. He sets up a cubicle on the first floor where he works. And he's like, here's a computer, headphones, listen to your music, do your homework, you do you, I'll be right here in my office. And so she's sitting in this cubicle. As far as he knows, she's just sitting there living her best life. And he gets a call from the receptionist who's like, hey, Ryan, I think your daughter might be on the couch in the 3rd floor ladies' room. And he's like, what? So he calls me and I'm like, love you so much. What do you want me to do about it? He's like, I don't know, talk to her. I'm like, she's in the ladies' room. Do you have an intercom system? Like, what do you expect me to do right now? And so he like goes back out to the receptionist. He's like, hey, obviously I can't just go in there. Could you maybe ask her to come back down? So she goes up there. She's like, Alexis, I think that your dad is looking for you. So she comes downstairs, back down to the first floor. He calls me and I'm like, hey, what you doing? Kid you not, that's what she says. I was trying to take a nap. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Where? So she proceeds to go into detail of this euphoric space that is like, nobody ever goes in there because there's no women on the 3rd floor. And it's got this long couch that can like fit her whole body. And it's got these little pillows. She's like, there's this thing and it sprays this stuff that smells good. She's like, I can turn the lights out. It's cool in there. The air conditioner's on. She was like, I was loving it. I'm just trying to take a nap. I had a really long day. So what? And I was like, girl, you can't take a nap in a ladies' room. And she goes, why? I don't know. It's weird was the best I could come up with. Like, I don't know, because we've all grown up understanding that you don't take a nap in an office bathroom. I don't know why. Nobody ever directly told me that I couldn't do that. She'd never been in a company building like that before. She had no idea. She found a really great place to take a nap. Why would she not? And so when we're talking about this, I think it's really important. And that to me really shifted my thinking from why in the world would you do that to why wouldn't you? And when we help our families understand that, like when we can stop and say, okay, why wouldn't they feel like this? It shifts everything, right? So there are definitely times where why wouldn't you? Because I've explained this to you, because we've had conversation about it, because we said that you really needed to be on time for this appointment. That's very different, right? But if we've never had those conversations and explicitly said, you cannot nap in a ladies' room bathroom on the 3rd floor of a workplace, or really any ladies' room, it's weird. Like, so if you never have that conversation, how would they know? And another example, one of my kids, he really wanted to play football, and I was taking him down to the school because he had to go sign up for tryouts or whatever. So I take him down there, and there's this mom, and she is livid. I mean, just losing it on this poor, probably like French teacher or something that signed up to like let people sign in after school. Like she was just there because she's a nice lady, not because she cares about football. And so I'm there and I'm like, oh, this is awkward. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. And this woman is just yelling at this poor teacher. She's like, you hate me. You hate my family. You hate my kid. You don't want him to play ball. Just live it. And so then she's over here and she's like, I'm sorry. I guess the school just doesn't want you to play ball. So you're not going to be able to play ball. And I get up there and I'm like, thanks for being here. I would like to sign up my son for the footballs. And she's like, okay. So tryout, she tells me the tryout schedule. And then she says, he's going to have a physical to go to the tryouts. Don't worry. There's one coming up next month. I'm like, yeah, but tryouts are next week. She's like, yes, he has to have a physical before tryouts. Yes. Okay, but the physical's not till next month. And she's like, yes. And she's like, but didn't he have one last year? And I'm like, I don't know if you can tell that this African-American boy is not actually my biological son. But like, no, he was not with me last year. Like he just moved in 2 weeks ago. He would like to play football. So no, he does not have one on file. And she's like, well, you didn't get him one last year. I'm like, no, ma'am. Last year he was at Austin East School. Like I could not go back in time and go pick him up and be like, hey, nice to meet you. Next year, you're going to be living with me and you're going to want to play football. So you need to come to Oak Ridge right now, get a physical, and then I'll bring you back to your life and I'll see you in a year. And she's like, well, don't worry. You can go to Walgreens. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, she goes, it's $150, but they'll do the physical. I'm like, oh, don't worry. It's only $150. All of a sudden, what's happening over here is making perfect sense. So I'm talking to her and I was like, hey, I know this is not your fault. I know you didn't set the schedule up, but you do understand that like this doesn't help a kid that is just moved here. This doesn't help a kid. And she was like, yes, I understand. Like it was like suddenly the light bulb went on. She was like, yes. And I was like, so I go over to this other mom and I'm like, hey, I have to take my kid to the Walgreens because I'm not going to break his heart. I have a credit card my husband doesn't even know exists. Would you like to come with us? I will get the physicals and we'll figure it out later. Like we can figure that out down the road because I want my kid to play and I want your kid to play. That's not a great solution, right? However, the difference is I understand how the systems work. So I was unable to call the superintendent's office. He was really displeased to hear from me. However, the next year, boy, they sure had that fixed. And he called me back and he was like, let me explain to you what happened. The coach went out of town the year before, so they had to move tryouts up. He really loved having the roster set early. So for the next year, he decided to do it again. Apparently, it wasn't an issue last year. However, the health department schedules those physicals so far in advance that they couldn't move it. And quite frankly, nobody even thought about moving it. And so this is how we've ended up in this pickle. And I was like, understood. However, do you understand that this is unacceptable? And you can also pay off my credit card if you would like to. It would be $300. Like, so it's those kinds of things where we understand the system. This mom over here did not. So to her, it felt like, cool, you hate me. You hate my son. You don't want us to be successful. And we kind of understand how that feels that way, right? This is not a problem for all these other parents. It's a problem for me because I had to move mid-year and move my kid. And I've already got all these other things stacked against me. And so now I have to let my child down. So now I'm angry because probably I took time off work to come down here in the middle of the day, sign my kid up for football only to find out that he can't do it anyway because I don't have $150 today. And so when we start understanding that this is how our families start feeling like it doesn't matter what I do, everything's stacked against me anyway, it's because so many of us understand how to work within the system. But a lot of the time, our families that are living in generational poverty do not understand how to work within that system. They understand the systems that they've been taught or that they have been raised to understand. They don't understand all of these other things. And so the school system could feel really frustrating at times. So decision-making skills and understanding consequences are often learned at a young age. So we learn that just through seeing those things in play. And so when you look at generational poverty, family living in generational poverty, if they're not understanding some of those consequences, because again, it feels like everything feels like fate for good and bad. The number of clients I've had call me and say, can you believe I just got a raise? Can you believe that I just got a promotion? I say this, and I can say it because y'all are all women. If you ever want to piss off a man and he tells you that he got a promotion or a raise, be like, you are so lucky. Like, it will absolutely put him over the edge. I love doing things like that. Do you know how hard I work for this? Our families, they don't understand consequences, so they don't understand incentives either. They're just like, woo, this good thing happened to me. I'm like, because you've been coming to work, you've been showing up on time, you've been doing what you're supposed to be doing. Of course, these things happen. But if you don't understand that cause and effect, you're not going to understand it for good or bad. So just like you hate me, that's why this is happening. When good things happen, it's the same thing, that everything is out of my control. And so when we understand some of those things, we're able to build those connections, which is why, again, it's so insane that I am constantly saying, okay, if you choose to make this decision, you're choosing this. If you choose to call into work again today, you're choosing to lose your job, most likely. If you're choosing this, you are choosing that. I do it all the time because when you don't see that modeled growing up, you don't understand those things naturally like some others do. And then bridging the gap between these cultural differences. So having patience and understanding and teaching can make such a huge difference. And it's not, hey, I understand that you are from poverty, so let me teach you some things. Like, obviously not, right? But to be able to model and find ways to say, okay, why would this family understand that? I have never explicitly explained it. I need to teach them this system, how this system works. I had a school call me once and say, this client keeps taking this piece of paper to sign up her kid for the free Wi-Fi. She keeps taking it. I don't want to ruin this piece of paper, but she's like, she keeps taking it, like balling it up and throwing it in my face. And I was like, you're lying to me right now. And she goes, no. Do you know her? I was like, I actually do. And she was like, can you please help me? This kid has got to be able to do his homework. She has to sign up for this Wi-Fi. I was like, okay. And so I call this lady and she comes down to my office and we're just chit-chatting. And I was like, hey, so did you know you could get free Wi-Fi? Well, that's how they get you. They're going to slam me with all kinds of fees at the end. And they're going to say that this was broken and that was broken and da-da-da. And I'm like, cool, I'll sign it. I'll take the liability. I understand that you're hesitant. I'll take the liability. And then she's like, well, I just don't think we need it. We can go to McDonald's anyway. And I was like, y'all don't need to be sitting in the McDonald's parking lot at 11 p.m. And I'm really getting confused. I'm like, look, let's just fill this out. We'll get the Wi-Fi thing. If you still don't think you need it, turn it back in. Like, everything's going to be fine. So I put the paper down. She stares at it. And then she looks up at me and she's like, I don't have a surname. I was like, what? She's like, I don't have a surname. I was like, that's your last name. And it took everything in me not to be like, Demi, that's your last name, right? Because like, who doesn't know that? But she just had never heard that language before. That was the entire barrier. The entire barrier was because it was an old form that used outdated language. And so having that relationship and being able to actually finally get to what the issue was and say, hey girl, surname is last name. Stupid. Nobody says that anymore. All right. And then just validate all of those concerns and be able to say, you know, I had a kid and they kept saying her laptop was broken and they would send us with fees. I get it. I get the concern. Let's figure out a way around this, right? So being able to kind of work within that and help her made such a huge difference for that kid who was sitting in the parking lot and then walking home because he was trying to get his homework done. But it was something that simple. And when you think about it, it's like, man, how stupid that that nobody had caught that. But why would we catch it? I don't think anybody in here would have ever thought that would be a barrier. And so when we're able to kind of understand these cultural differences and barriers like that, we're able to teach those things in ways that are a little more low key, right? So some practical tips: acknowledge the impact of poverty and generational poverty. I think it's really easy to get caught up in, okay, well, I'm giving you opportunities to better your situation and you're not taking those opportunities. It's easy to kind of lose patience, but approaching with empathy and acknowledge that the systemic barriers that our families face, and then being patient. Like it's really easy to say, this teacher doesn't hate you, right? Like it's really easy to say, don't be mad at her. Why are you yelling at somebody? No, it's not appropriate to be yelling at her. But when we can take a step back and understand all of the pieces, that teacher could not put it's wild to think that she couldn't put those pieces together, but she just couldn't put those pieces together, that it was a big deal. And so I think when we can be there to buffer some of those things with empathy and patience and understanding, and then we can only do that because we've built trust through relationship. And that means listening, being consistent, and following through. And to the point that like a lot of our families never feel heard, that is so, so common that I used to get calls all the time. I don't know if y'all get calls like this, but it's like, okay, so like hello? Okay, so my cousin is in Georgia and she don't do nothing for my auntie who's in Cleveland, and she's got, she just had a heart attack and a stroke and she needs help. And my other cousin just got this divorce and now they're living in Kentucky, and then this and then this and then this and then that, and it's like the longest ever. And then at the end it's like, so I just need $15 to help my child go on this field trip tomorrow. What? Like I was ready with so many solutions for such bigger problems through this conversation, and you just need $15 for tomorrow. But it's giving the context. Like I don't have anybody else to tell that everything in my life is a mess. All of these people are relying on me, and I don't even have $15 for my kid to go on their field trip tomorrow. So sometimes it just takes listening. And I'll be honest, it's not easy to just sit and listen. I'm a fixer. So I always want to cut her down and be like, okay, so here's what we can do. And she's like, that's not my problem. And then go on. I have a coloring book, and I have got friends that I have to get the coloring book out for, but I have a coloring book and I will just listen and color, and I'll take notes. Sometimes it's really fun. I'll put together like a family tree because I'm like getting all of the gossip on the entire family. So I'm like putting the family tree together or like coloring. But a lot of the time our families just want to feel heard. People in crisis just want to feel heard. So finding ways to be able to be an active listener. Then work with the family to address those immediate needs so that they can create space for goal setting. So like I said earlier, the people who need to do that work the most are often the people that don't have the capacity for it. So what kinds of immediate needs can we meet quickly to give space and capacity for setting some of those goals and teaching some of those long-term solutions? Offer guidance for resources and services. Make sure families know how to access what is needed. How do you apply for that? Walking them through the difficult way. It's so easy for me to say, here's $15 for your field trip, but that's not a long-term solution. And so how do we figure out how to make sure that the paperwork is done at the school so that your kid doesn't have to pay for field trips like that? Or if there is a scholarship available, how do we put those things in place and help our families learn to work within the system and understand how those systems work? And then normalizing seeking help. I don't know about y'all. I'm terrible at this. I am absolutely awful at this. I never want to ask for help, but I do it to model it for others. And that's what I have to tell myself is like, you are strong. You can do everything. We're doing this to model it for somebody else. Like, that's my way of like getting over myself. So I'm just therapy. This is my therapy for today. Thank you guys. So giving examples of times that you have asked for help, I think really helps others to understand that it's okay to ask for help. Some of our families have no problem asking for help, and then others really struggle with that. So being able to figure that out and then give examples. Encouraging families to connect with community groups, faith organizations, support groups. That's a really great way to help foster social connections and support. And so figuring out, are there opportunities for these parents or community members to connect with other people that are struggling with similar things? And so that takes a little bit of work, getting to know what's out there, but that can have some really good long-term benefits as well. Offer strategies for stress management, scheduling, planning, self-care, and help them see their own resiliency and strength. I don't know if y'all saw the Advocates table out here. I'm going to brag on them for just a second. Mindy is a friend of mine. She's the founder of that organization, and she teaches scheduling for her families that are families with kids with disabilities. And that can make the world of difference for those families. I know she has printable schedules and things like that. Y'all talk to her about it, because I've been telling her she needs to let more people know that this exists. She's got really fun scheduling tools with pictures and things like that for kids that maybe are nonverbal and struggling to read, that kind of thing, that they can still understand their schedule. And that makes so much difference. So routines and systems and schedules, our families need to learn these things. They didn't grow up having these modeled. They're not going to know them now. I grew up in a very haphazard household. Everybody in my family is late. It is everything. My husband was the opposite. And so it's like constant mayhem. After 18 years, we still like fight about it. He's like, I don't like being late. I'm like, I don't know how to not be late. Like we've got like serious schedules on like everywhere. And I have to set 100 alarms. And like this morning, I got up at 6 o'clock just to leave my house by 9:30. Like what? Why? I don't know, y'all. I don't know. But understanding how to set schedules and stick to schedules and timelines is really important. That's an important skill. So any kind of resources that we can give families around that makes a world of difference long-term for all kinds of things. And then building resilience, always using a strength-based approach and building around their current resources. That's going to build confidence in our families. If they come in and it's immediately like, oh, wow, no wonder you're a mess. You don't have any of these things and you need all of these resources, or you need to be doing this or getting that, is obviously only going to make them feel worse. But when we're able to say, hey, this is awesome. You've got this resource and this resource. You do have some family or some friends. You've got a vehicle, like building on whatever strengths they do have is a really, really great place to start. So we always want to make sure that we're staying strength-based. And then encouraging the long-term planning. So working with families to break down those long-term goals into small and manageable steps, and then celebrate each of those small steps to build momentum, which just, it feels so like, well, of course, that's how you accomplish something, but it's really hard for families that haven't learned to plan ahead. I had a mom that I was working with this time last year. She had just got her tax return. And I said, what are you going to do with this? And she goes, I'm going to take my kids to Disney. And I was like, all I'm thinking is like, you have so many bills. And I was like, you didn't want to pay down any of those bills? Or she was like, nope, I've got money today. I'm not going to have money tomorrow. I was like, you'll have it tomorrow if you don't spend it though, right? Like, and just sitting there in this like circle. The point is, I've got the money. I could take my kids to Disney today, but tomorrow it's going to be spent on all these bills. For us, we're like, yeah, because you have to pay your bills. But for her, this was the only opportunity that she was going to have to take her kids to Disney. And so talking through that and working through that, it's really hard. And I lost a little bit of patience. And I was like, you could go to Dollywood and stay somewhere somewhat local. Let's just spend half of it instead of all of it. Nope, I'm never going to have this opportunity again. I'm going to take my kids to Disney. I'm spending all of my tax return going to Disney with my kids. And it's frustrating, but when we can help, hey, that taking 500 of that will help you hit this small milestone. And then we get to celebrate that. That's how we start getting there, is not by saying, no, you need to use all of it to pay off your bills, right? Okay. How many people in here love Harry Potter? Glad at least a couple hands went up, because I'm standing here looking stupid with my Harry Potter tattoo in the air. Okay, so this is my very favorite quote, and I almost referenced it earlier because so much of what we've been talking about today always makes me think of this. Harry is he's feeling very paranoid. He's feeling very isolated. For those of you that maybe don't love Harry Potter, if you don't know, Harry is basically like the one, right? He's going to save, he's the chosen one. He's going to save all of the wizards from Voldemort, like, who, the big bad guy. And so he's feeling very, very isolated. He feels like nobody can help me. Nobody can support me. And in the movies, he's out, and Luna, who's crazy and like my favorite character in the books, she comes up to him and she says, well, if I were who, I'd want you to feel cut off from everyone else. Because if it's just you alone, you're not as much of a threat. And that, it really almost makes me cry. Like, that quote has stuck with me so hard, because, oh my word, how many days do we feel like this? And how many days do our families feel like this? Like, so isolated and so alone. And I think that's part of it, is that the world is setting us up to feel isolated, because we can't really get ahead if we work together, right? And I think that this crosses into so many places that I'm not going to go today. But if we're really, when we think about this, you're not as much of a threat if you're alone. You're not as much, you're not as strong if you're alone. You're not, when we understand this, we understand community and the importance of community and connection. And so that ties in perfectly into burnout. Okay, so preventing burnout. I hope none of y'all feel burned out, right? Never. You wake up every day and you're like, woo, yes. Okay. So when we talk about preventing burnout, this is interesting. This is what I've found so far in my research. The biggest burnout buster that I have found is connection and hope. This is it. This is what breaks burnout, is connection and hope. Hope that things will get better. Hope that we are making a difference. Hope that we are changing something. And when we lose that hope, that's when burnout starts to set in, because why am I even getting up today? And then connection, because if I'm having a really bad day, if I'm not making a difference today, I've got somebody that can say, hey, you're not alone. I feel like that too some days, but here's where we are. Here's what we can do, right? So it really begins to change burnout. So setting boundaries need to be the best for you. They are not standard. The thing that makes me the most mad is when it's like, well, you should never work after hours, or you should never, open your laptop on a Saturday. If that's what's best for you, go for it. If I don't work on a Sunday, my Monday is so much worse. It is better for me to just take an hour on Sunday for a much better Monday, right? So that is just one teeny tiny example of a boundary that I set for me, that works for me, that is not standard. So number one is your boundaries are your boundaries, and not to let other people tell you how they should be set. Give yourself the okay to not be okay. This means crying, eating ice cream, taken to the bed. Once a year, I take to the bed and I refuse to get up. And I'll say this, I just went through like a really difficult time a few months ago, and I told everybody, I was like, I'm taken to the bed. My daughter came in there. So she had, because I do this at least once a year, every year anyway. My daughter had also been going through a difficult time a few months before, and I'd been going in there. She had lost her job that she really loved, and I was going in there and I was like playing with her hair in the morning, and I was like, hey, just try to get up today. Like, just do something today. All right. Hey, did you eat today? let's eat something. And so I've been like taking care of her. So I took to the bed. She comes in there and she goes, you can stay in bed today, but only today. And she's like playing with my hair. And then she comes home and I hear her in the kitchen. She's talking to this is why I won't kick her out. Listen to how sweet she is. Here in the kitchen talking to my husband. And she's like, I don't think she ate today. So you're going to go get us Chinese food and we're all going to go eat it in the bed. And she's like, there is nothing she loves more than watching trash TV and eating in the bed. Go get the Chinese food. So my husband goes, he gets it. We all eat Chinese food in the bed. And she's like, tomorrow you're going to get up and take a shower. And I was like, okay, fine. But like, I was telling somebody about it later and they were like, well, that's everything that you were telling me you were doing with her when you were so worried about her over the summer. And I literally had never connected that. And so when we're modeling that we're not okay, if we're not okay, don't pretend you're okay. When you can model, yeah, I ate a whole cake yesterday because I felt like I needed it. And that's okay. It's okay. Every once in a while, you need to take to the bed, refuse to get up, or eat a whole cake, whatever that looks like. Drink a whole bottle of wine. Maybe not every day. Every once in a while. A few times a week. You know, whatever. Nobody's judging. So these are all ways to kind of prevent burnout. The other thing that we do, this is the other thing that my kids are so sick and tired of. If they are being negative, and they do it back to me too, if they're being negative and they have said at least 3 negative situations in a row, I will say, I need you to give me 3 good things. It could be, I had clean socks this morning. I don't care what it is, but you need to give me 3 good things about your life right now. And it drives them absolutely nuts, especially when they're like having a really bad day, complaining about a lot. And I'm like, 3 good things. And I'm trying to remember what one of them was real mean one day when she was like, well, I don't have to see you for the rest of the day. And I was like, thank you. Love that. Love that for you. Love it for me. But like coming up with those 3 good things is really helpful. And then the other thing that we do is this. And so we're going to all do this together. This is the best burnout buster. And this will make you laugh whether you want to or not. And so this is on a big sign in my office, and everybody comes and they sit on the couch in my office just to talk. Like all of my kids do it. My husband does it. My friends do it. Everybody will just come to my home office and they sit on the couch. This is on the wall. And if you are having a hard time and we need to break out of it, like it's okay to not be okay, but like when it's time to shake it off, this is what we do. So we're going to all do it together. Are you ready? Okay. So we're going to start with the whisper. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next one. Sneep, snoop. Beedle boop. Okay, now everybody ready. Bubbles! Who does not feel better right now? I don't even know where I found this, but I saw it somewhere and I was like, yep, 100%. I have this printed and I give it to people on little business cards. There is nothing that will make you feel better than doing this. And so finding a reason to laugh will help so much with burnout. I kid you not. Like I have some of these stories about my kids. I keep them written down. And sometimes if I'm struggling, I'll just go in there and pull one out. And I'm like, Greg and the banana bread. Like, honestly, he will call me sometimes and he'll go, Mom, remember when I put that bread down my shorts? Yeah, I do. I will literally never forget it. I will never forget that. And so just finding reasons and ways to laugh is really important. All right. So I hope that today y'all will take some time to think about which one, like any of these things, how it can apply to implementing the 5 factors in your work on the day-to-day. Think through changes that you may need to make based on cultural understanding. And if y'all have questions about that, or you're interested in having some more socioeconomic training for your workplace, I would love to come and do that. And then identifying immediate action steps to reduce burnout. So even if it's just, okay, I'm going to take to the bed once a year and I'm going to hold it all in and I'm going to have my take to the bed day because Naomi said I could, and I can take to the bed. I'm going to call in sick and it is my one day to take to the bed. I love doing that, guys. It is seriously, it's like my favorite day of the year. We also do it the day after Thanksgiving. I always have to cook Thanksgiving. So the day after Thanksgiving, we take to the bed. My daughter sleeps with me on Thanksgiving night, and we get up and we eat pie for breakfast. And we don't get up. We watch really trashy, like Hallmark movies, like the Netflix Christmas movies and Hallmark. And that's our tradition. So if anybody says, what holiday traditions do you have? She's like, me and my mom, we take to the bed the day after Thanksgiving. It's our favorite thing. It's our favorite tradition. So identifying some action steps to help reduce burnout. And I'm happy to send y'all my little sneak thing if you want that, because I love it. All right, so this is me. If y'all ever have questions or want to chat, please feel free to reach out. Thank you for your time today, guys. Right on time.
Great.
I do have a QR code for you all if you're wanting a continuing education credit. I'm going to put that on the screen, but did everyone get this information? I don't want to take it